We know it's there, and we usually pay it little mind, yet we notice it when it's not there. Gravity is the all-encompassing force keeping us on the ground, and the planets in their orbits. In space, we are merely cheating gravity, falling just as fast, but missing the ground, an orbit and so-called condition of microgravity. Now, this fundamental universal force is slowly giving up its secrets. Humans live in a gravity field. So what happens when they spend extended time in the zero-G environment, and how can we utilize what we learn to help human beings? This A310 zero-G aircraft is being used by the European Space Agency for research in conditions of microgravity. To obtain zero-G, the plane must perform a series of parabolas. On each maneuver, people first experience almost 2 Gs, feeling twice their normal weight. When the aircraft reaches a specific point,
20, 30.
They inject the plane into the parabola. Everyone on board is then in microgravity.
It's now called out the angle, it's 40 degrees at 50.
Injection.
Injection, that is weightlessness. Here I go. The scientists have 20 seconds of weightlessness to do their experiments behind me. But there will be 30 of these parabolas. So they have plenty of time, 10 minutes in fact,
20.
to do
30.
their experiments. Time to get down now, because there will be a nasty thud. There we go.
There are 12 experiments on this flight, including 6 by students as part of ESA's Flying Thesis program. The experiments cover everything from fundamental physics and neuroscience to psychology, looking at body image and perception. This experiment is examining the effect of microgravity on the brain. That's important for astronauts doing long-duration stays on the ISS, but there are also wider applications.
We are also interested in people with diseases, for example, Alzheimer's disease or dementia. If we know the mechanisms which are linked of a reduction of cognitive performance and brain activity and where that comes from, we might be able to better design strategies to then help these people.
Inside here is a pulsating heat pipe, potentially a new way of managing the thermal conditions of satellites or components on board the ISS. The copper pipe, seen here showing the flow of a condensed vapor, also has a section made of sapphire that is transparent to visible and infrared radiation.
In this experiment, we are using the infrared camera of the European Space Agency. It's a new camera, high-speed infrared camera, that will be used also on the International Space Station for the next experiment.
After each parabola, there is another 20 seconds of 2G as the plane pulls out to level flight. A few minutes later, the next parabola begins. In between each one, scientists must quickly reset their experiments and prepare for the next bout of microgravity.
This is the only microgravity platform where the scientists get to interact with their own experiment while it is in zero gravity. Rather than doing it by remote on a robotic capsule or sounding rocket, or on the ISS, it's humans, of course, but then it's astronauts doing it, and they can't possibly be as in tune with the scientific needs as the scientists themselves. So this is the only platform that really allows that kind of access, and as such, it's unique.
In the final few parabolas, everyone works hard to finish their science. For the German Mars Society experiment, however, there's only one shot to get this right, as it involves testing the initial deployment of a densely packed balloon that they hope one day will carry instruments for studying Mars's atmosphere. Whether it's preparing for Mars or helping life on board the space station and on Earth, the zero-G plane offers a unique environment for research and the closest conditions possible to being in space. Of course, the ISS is the ideal place to experiment with gravity, or the lack of it. Many experiments are conducted by the crew every day, with new experiments being sent up to the crews in cargo and crew capsules.
Now, you are free to set up as you want. This is just...
Fundamental questions are still to be explained. Most fundamental of all, what is gravity? How can such a weak force dominate the entire universe? How does it keep moons and planets in orbit? It affects everything, no matter what its mass may be. A leaf will fall as fast as a handful of nuts and bolts in vacuum, as tested on the lunar surface many years earlier by Apollo astronauts. It was this man who explained the force of gravity in the space-time continuum early in the 20th century. He theorized that gravitational waves were oscillations in the fabric of space-time, moving at the speed of light and caused by the acceleration of massive objects.
Gravitational waves were predicted by Einstein almost 100 years ago.
A gravitational wave is a ripple in the fabric of space and time. It's produced somewhere in the distant universe and travels across the universe.
When any massive object moves, it's changing the nature of space-time. That's what Einstein told us.
So you have a motion that stretches space in one direction and compresses space in the other direction.
Nobody really believed at the time of the prediction that you could ever detect them because the size of the effect is so small.
It would take multiple massive detectors around the world to sense such a small effect passing through the Earth. Question: how do you detect gravitational waves? Answer: with a Michelson interferometer. This is the GO600 in Germany. Laser light is split and sent along different paths in a vacuum, the longer the better, then reflected back on mirrors suspended on glass threads, completely isolated from any earthly vibrations. The laser light is then brought back together, and the interference patterns of the two beams compared. The sensitivity required is astounding.
We literally look for changes in the space-time distance in our instruments as the gravitational wave goes by.
And the gravitational wave pushes them together and apart by 1/1000th the diameter of the nucleus of an atom. No wonder it's taken so long to pull this off.
The first detection was made by LIGO, two detectors a continent apart.
We have observed gravitational waves from two black holes forming a larger black hole.
They're moving at the velocity of light, damn near that velocity. 30 solar masses moving that fast. I mean, they're putting out incredible amounts of energy.
And when they collide with one another, they produce a bigger black hole, but they also produce gravitational waves. And in that process, about 3 solar masses just disappears and goes into gravitational waves.
September 2015 confirmed Einstein's vision of the waves and allowed a fascinating and unique view into the dark side of the cosmos, creating a new science, gravitational wave astronomy. Gravitational waves carry information that you can't obtain any other way. Massive events like a supernova, 2 neutron stars colliding, even the universe creating Big Bang itself, have all produced gravitational waves. These can now be detected, adding pieces to the jigsaw picture of nature and the forces that define space-time. Barely 2 years later, another scientific milestone was reached. Astronomers using a fleet of ESO telescopes have observed a visible counterpart to gravitational waves for the first time. A kilonova from merging neutron stars. August 2017, the LIGO facilities, in collaboration with their European counterparts dubbed Virgo, together detected gravitational waves rippling through the fabric of space-time. Just 2 seconds later, 2 space telescopes from ESA and NASA detected a short gamma-ray burst coming from the same general area of the sky. This coincidence had never been seen before. Astronomers hoped this was not just a coincidence, but another indicator of this cataclysmic event, 2 neutron stars combining in an explosive merger. If scientists were right, then a visible light counterpart known as a kilonova would be expected to follow, revealing the exact location of the source of gravitational and gamma rays. The hunt was on. ESO and ESO partner telescopes in Chile joined other observatories to search for a new light source. They were looking for a needle in a haystack, a faint new glimmer amid millions of stars. But amazingly, they found it just a few hours later in the galaxy NGC 4993, 130 million light years from Earth. Neutron star mergers are the furnaces where most of the chemical elements heavier than iron are forged. The kilonova, an event 1,000 times brighter than a typical nova, spreads the newly formed elements, including gold, platinum, and uranium, into the surrounding space. Such an explosion had never been confirmed before, but here was one that could be studied in great detail. The ESO observations revealed an extraordinary and rapidly changing event, closely mirroring theory. Heavy radioactive elements were shot into space at 1/5 the speed of light. In just a matter of days, the kilonova's color changed rapidly from blue to red, faster than any other observed stellar explosion. This event marks the start of a new era of multi-messenger astronomy. For the first time in history, we can now combine light signals with gravitational waves, providing a totally new way to probe the universe. The advancement of gravitational wave detection didn't stop there. Talented engineers and scientists set about developing even more sensitive detectors that could be mounted in space, free of nagging earthly vibration and detector size limitations.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top, allumage et décollage de VV06.
A proof of concept mission, the Laser Interferometer Space Antenna, or LISA Pathfinder, was launched to test the feasibility of a space-based gravity detector. LISA Pathfinder was launched from Kourou, French Guiana, aboard a Vega launcher into a slightly elliptical parking orbit. Using its own propulsion module, it progressively expanded its Earth orbit over a period of 2 weeks before the cruise phase to its operational orbit at the first Sun-Earth Lagrange point, L1, 1.5 million kilometers from Earth towards the Sun. The science package was built around 2 identical gold and platinum cubes, each floating free in a vacuum. They act both as mirrors for the interferometer and as inertial references for the drag-free control system. A disturbance reduction system, or DRS, was supplied by NASA and consisted of 2 clusters of colloidal micropropulsion thrusters and an electronic unit containing a computer with associated drag-free control software.
So to me, the highlight of LISA Pathfinder is the very first day we turned it on, because we didn't expect the performance to be as good. We thought we would be close to what we had to do, and then we would improve it. We would think about what we have to do, we'd fix things, and it would get better. On day number 1, it met requirements. And what it showed us is that this is a very complex type of instrument, but it's doable, and industry now have the experience in how to make a mission like LISA and LISA Pathfinder.
These signals are very, very tiny indeed, and we've been able to show with these test masses inside the LISA Pathfinder satellite that we would be able to see gravitational waves in the frequency band where we're interested in.
I think LISA Pathfinder is already demonstrated that it's possible actually to place 2 test masses in free fall in space with a residual relative acceleration at the level required for the future gravitational wave detector.
LISA Pathfinder confirmed the technology for a space-based gravitational wave detector even before the science operations began.
So a space-based detector like LISA is looking for low-frequency gravitational waves. And by low frequency, really we're talking about very big objects which are in motion. So we're looking at the centers of galaxies, the supermassive black holes at the center of a galaxy, and when 2 galaxies merge, the 2 black holes eventually form one big entity. And it's in that merging of the 2 black holes is what we're picking up through LISA.
Proving this type of technology in situ is a big leap forward in detectors.
It has worked flawlessly, and our performance is better than we could ever have dreamt. Even on the very first day, we had met our requirements, and since then we've just made it better, and it's just wonderful to see how well this instrument is performing. The success of LISA Pathfinder demonstrates that we now know how to build a mission like LISA, and over the next months and years, that mission will now start to be in the design phase, leading to a launch in the late 2020s or 2030s. Gravity is the fundamental force of the universe. At the largest scales of talking about stars, galaxies, the universe, they're dominated by gravity. However, gravity does not get absorbed very well by matter. We're sitting here in a building, we're not floating off in space, we've got a building between us and the Earth. So gravity penetrates all matter. So for that reason, the gravity is passing through our detector, and it doesn't really dump any energy in the detector the way an electromagnetic telescope would pick up light. So we have to actually look at the ripples in space-time. We have to look at the effect of gravity over all of space.
And like other waves propagating through space, gravity waves too have various wavelengths or frequencies.
We need LISA because it's looking at a whole new part of the spectrum of gravitational waves. It's a whole new type of science we're doing. So with the LIGO detections, they're looking at objects that are roughly the size of the Sun, so anywhere from 1 to 100 times the mass of the Sun. and in their case it was about 30 solar mass black holes which were orbiting each other. Whereas with LISA, we're looking at galaxies merging. So it's no longer stellar-like objects, it's now galactic objects. So things which are maybe 1 million times the mass of the Sun, the big black hole at the centre of galaxies. When galaxies merge together, eventually these black holes collide. And when that happens, it rips a universe apart. And we're looking for that universe vibrating from these merge of these big events. Something you can never ever do that on the ground. So LIGO will never be able to see the events that we see with LISA.
The LISA mission will consist of 3 satellites precisely positioned to each other in an Earth-trailing orbit. There they will connect to each other via laser beams, forming a single detector.
So the big difference between LISA and LISA Pathfinder is the length of the arm. So in LISA Pathfinder, we had 2 gold platinum cubes in our spacecraft, and they were separated by about 40 centimetres. Whereas in LISA, the little cubes are separated by 2.5 million kilometres. So to put that in perspective, that's about 6 times the distance to the Moon. So it's a long, long way.
Work has begun on the LISA project. It will take over a decade to plan, design and build, then test the 3 spacecraft. When LISA launches in 2034, it will be able to detect gravitational waves from objects up to 100 times the mass of our Sun. The engineering challenges alone are daunting.
So the challenges of a mission like LISA or LISA Pathfinder is the fact that it's built with, I think we had 40 different companies from 14 different countries building aspects. And unlike some of the planetary missions or some of the also astronomy missions where you have a camera and a telescope, our whole satellite is one instrument. And if we go to LISA, all 3 satellites form one instrument. So everything has to come together, it has to work, and that's what happened. You know, we had a very great collaboration within Europe, and when it all came together, it worked as an instrument on day 1.
None of that would have been possible without Albert Einstein, LIGO, and the LISA Pathfinder. Its success has paved the way for a whole new window into the mysteries of our universe.
Gravitational waves allow us to see the dark side of the universe, so the things which are not shining light, for example black holes. So now we can actually go out there and we can really observe these things which we've got no other way to see. And also, their gravitational waves were predicted by Einstein, and this is one of the main pillars of general relativity. And with LIGO, and even better with LISA, we can really start to probe general relativity and see that is actually theory which governs the gravity of the universe.